Before the guests arrived, Harry had been pulled aside and given a warning disguised as advice. He was told to keep Meghan calm, avoid confrontation, and respect the day's hierarchy. What no one explained was why the warning concerned Meghan when she had done nothing wrong. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel for more hidden royal stories, palace secrets, and dramatic moments the monarchy never wanted exposed. The message came from a senior palace aide who spoke with the careful calm of someone repeating instructions that had already passed through several powerful hands. Harry was urged not to question any last-minute changes involving Meghan. He was told the wedding had to remain peaceful, the family had to appear united, and personal feelings could not be allowed to disturb the occasion. Yet every word made him more suspicious. The aide spoke of family sensitivities and the bride's wishes, but refused to explain whose feelings were being protected, or why Meghan had suddenly become the danger. Harry immediately understood that something had changed. Meghan had originally been promised a visible place within the family grouping, a small but important sign that old wounds would be set aside for one day. It was meant to show that whatever had happened behind closed doors, she would not be treated like an outsider in front of the family. But now the aide's warning suggested that promise had quietly been weakened. The final seating plan confirmed his fear. Meghan was still invited. She was still inside the room. But she had been moved far enough from Harry and the senior royals to make her presence feel uncertain. She could be acknowledged if the family wished, or ignored without anyone openly breaking protocol. It was a perfect palace arrangement, cruel in effect, but almost impossible to challenge without appearing unreasonable. Harry felt trapped. If he confronted the decision before the ceremony, he could be blamed for creating a scandal on someone else's wedding day. But if he stayed silent, Meghan would walk into the reception unaware that her place had been reduced and her dignity had been turned into a test of obedience. The warning was not asking him to keep the peace. It was asking him to accept the humiliation before it happened. Then came the detail that changed his anger into fear. Kate had reportedly taken part in a private conversation about how warmly Meghan should be received. No one claimed she had demanded an insult. No one needed to. The language was softer than that: avoid confusion, prevent mixed signals, protect the bride, keep the focus where it belonged. But Harry knew how palace language worked. Kindness could be removed without anyone admitting they had ordered cruelty. So when he entered the reception, he was already watching Kate. He noticed every movement, every pause, every choice. Then she approached Meghan's table, passed her assigned seat, and continued without stopping. In that instant, Harry understood the warning had not been made to prevent trouble. It had been made because the palace knew exactly what was about to happen, and knew he might refuse to remain silent. And when Harry finally reached Kate, he did not ask why she had ignored Meghan, he asked who had instructed her to do it. Harry did not raise his voice. That made the confrontation more dangerous. Standing beside Kate in a room trained to ignore discomfort, he asked one question quietly enough to avoid a scene, yet clearly enough for the nearest royal table to hear every word. He approached her with anger, held tightly under control. There was no smile, no polite laugh, no attempt to make the moment look harmless. Harry had spent years watching royal tension disappear behind perfect manners, but this time he refused to help hide it. He looked directly at Kate and asked whether passing Meghan's seat had been her choice, or whether someone more powerful had told her to do it. Kate did not answer at once. That silence lasted only a few seconds, but it changed everything. If the moment had been accidental, she could have dismissed it immediately. Instead, she hesitated. Her expression tightened, and Harry saw the truth before she said a word. Meghan had not been overlooked. She had been deliberately avoided, and the decision reached far beyond one uncomfortable greeting. William moved closer before Kate could respond. He did not explain the seating change or defend Meghan's treatment. His first concern was control. He warned Harry that the wedding was not the time or place for a confrontation and reminded him that every person in the room had a duty to protect the day. Harry's reply shocked those nearest to them. If the family could humiliate Meghan in public, he said, then the family had already chosen the time and place. The table fell silent. Conversations faded. Guests who had been pretending not to notice suddenly became completely still. Harry had done more than accuse Kate of an insult. He had challenged the palace's oldest defense, the idea that cruelty becomes acceptable when it is hidden behind protocol. Kate finally answered. She insisted that her choice had been about protecting the bride, not punishing Meghan. Any warm exchange, she argued, could have pulled attention away from the wedding and reopened arguments the family wanted buried. Meghan's presence already carried tension. A public gesture of reconciliation might have created headlines, expectations, and questions no one was prepared to face. Harry stared at her in disbelief. Meghan had attended quietly. She had followed every instruction. She had not made a speech, demanded attention, or challenged anyone's role. Yet the family was acting as though a simple greeting could bring the entire celebration crashing down. Then Harry raised the accusation neither Kate nor William expected. Meghan had tried to contact the bride before the wedding. Her message had been private, respectful, and peaceful. She had offered support and promised that she wanted nothing from the day except calm. But the bride had never received it. Harry demanded to know who had stopped the message. William's expression changed. Kate looked away. In that moment, the confrontation stopped being about a skipped seat and became something far more serious. Someone inside the palace had not only controlled Meghan's place in the room. They had controlled her voice before she even entered it. The answer led back to a private meeting held 3 days before the wedding, where Meghan's name had been discussed as though she were not a person, but a risk to be contained. 3 days before the wedding, senior family members gathered without Harry or Meghan. The official subject was ceremony logistics, but the conversation quickly turned to one question. How much visibility could Meghan be given before her presence became more powerful than the event itself? The room included senior royals, private secretaries, security advisors, and members of the wedding planning team. On paper, they were there to protect order. In reality, they were deciding how closely Meghan could stand to the family without allowing her presence to carry a message of forgiveness. Some feared that every greeting would become a headline. Others warned that pushing her too far away would look openly hostile. No one spoke about her feelings. They spoke about impact, risk, and control. The solution was presented as a compromise. Meghan would attend, but almost nothing involving her would be left to chance. Her arrival would be timed. Her seat would be adjusted. Photographs would be limited. Conversations with senior royals would remain brief. She would be included just enough to prevent accusations of exclusion, yet kept distant enough to avoid any sign that the family had truly welcomed her back. Kate objected most strongly to unscripted contact. She argued that even a warm greeting could be taken as proof of reconciliation. That could create public expectations the palace had no intention of meeting. A simple pause beside Meghan might look harmless inside the room, but outside it could become a promise of peace. Kate believed that promise would trap everyone. Then Meghan's private message was mentioned. She had written to the bride with no demands and no bitterness. She offered peace, wished her happiness, and promised not to draw attention away from the wedding. But the message never reached its destination. Palace staff intercepted it, claiming that emotional contact so close to the ceremony could create confusion. Kate knew the message existed. She could have asked for it to be delivered. She did not. Her choice was not driven by anger alone. Kate feared being pulled between two forces she could not satisfy. William expected loyalty to the institution. Harry demanded that Meghan be treated as family. Any kindness shown to one side could be seen as betrayal by the other. Distance felt safer, but safety for Kate meant isolation for Meghan. The final instruction was never written as an order to ignore her. It was buried beneath careful phrases: no extended engagement, maintain forward movement, and avoid unnecessary pauses. Those words gave everyone protection. Kate could say she had followed procedure. Officials could claim they had never requested cruelty. Yet the result had already been decided. The aide who warned Harry before the ceremony had attended that meeting. He was disturbed enough to alert him, but not brave enough to expose the full plan. By the time Harry learned the truth, he understood the humiliation had not happened in a flash of personal anger. It had been discussed, softened, approved, and divided among so many people that no single person could be held responsible. Yet the most painful revelation was still hidden. Because Meghan had known something was wrong before Kate ever entered the room, and she had chosen not to tell Harry. Meghan had noticed the altered seating card before the reception began. She understood the message immediately, but she said nothing to Harry. She had made herself one promise before entering the wedding: whatever happened inside that room, she would not become the reason the celebration collapsed. Only a short time earlier, she had been shown a different arrangement. In that version, she would sit beside Harry, close enough to the family to suggest that the worst of the conflict had been set aside. But just before the reception, her name appeared in another place. Farther away, easier to overlook. Close enough to claim she had been included, yet distant enough to make that inclusion feel empty. Meghan asked a staff member whether there had been a mistake. The answer came too quickly. She was told the change reflected final family arrangements, a phrase delivered with such smooth certainty that she knew it had been prepared in advance. No one explained who had approved it. No one offered to correct it. The conversation was over before it had truly begun. Then she realized Harry had not been told. For a moment, she considered finding him. She knew exactly how he would react. He would demand answers, refuse to accept the change, and risk turning the wedding into another battlefield between brothers. Meghan could already imagine the accusation that would follow, that her presence had created drama once again. So she remained silent. She chose to carry the insult alone. That choice left her isolated before she even took her seat. Everyone around her seemed to understand the rules, yet no one would speak them aloud. Rank was hidden inside smiles. Distance was explained as planning. Every polite gesture carried a second meaning, and Meghan was expected to understand each one without ever admitting that she had noticed. When Kate began moving through the room, Meghan held on to one final hope. Perhaps the seating change was only procedural. Perhaps a brief greeting would prove there was no personal message behind it. She did not expect warmth. She did not expect forgiveness. She expected only the smallest acknowledgement. Kate passed her without stopping. In that instant, the two decisions became one. The altered seat and the missing greeting were not separate misunderstandings. They were parts of the same warning. Meghan could attend, but she would not be allowed to feel accepted. When Harry approached, Meghan quietly asked him not to react. She wanted to leave before the tension became a spectacle. But Harry heard something deeper in her request. Her restraint was not weakness. It was proof of how often she had been forced to swallow pain so everyone else could remain comfortable. He refused to let silence protect the people who had arranged it. Meghan feared that staying would deepen the damage. Harry believed leaving quietly would allow the palace to deny that anything had happened. Their disagreement was painful, because both were trying to protect the other. Then, Harry made his choice. He turned back toward the room and announced that he would not return to his assigned place. Instead of walking Meghan out, Harry took the seat beside her, and in doing so, he disrupted an arrangement designed to keep the royal brothers apart. Harry's response was not a speech, an accusation, or a dramatic exit. It was more powerful than all three. He pulled out the empty chair beside Meghan and sat down, abandoning his assigned place and breaking a seating order approved at the highest level. His official place had been chosen with care. It sat near William and the senior members of the family, arranged to create the appearance of unity between two brothers whose private relationship had already begun to crack. The message was supposed to be simple. Whatever tension existed behind palace doors, the family would stand together for the wedding. But that image required Meghan to remain at a distance, present but separated, included but never fully embraced. Harry rejected the arrangement in one quiet movement. By taking the chair beside Meghan, he forced the room to face the choice everyone had tried to hide. He could protect the planned display of royal unity, or he could stand beside his wife after she had been deliberately isolated. He could not do both. The palace had expected him to choose the institution. Instead, he chose Meghan. The effect reached far beyond one empty chair. The speaking order had been planned around Harry's position near William. Official photographs depended on the approved family grouping. Security officers had been given fixed routes based on where each senior royal would sit. Even the order in which guests would be approached had been carefully mapped. Harry's refusal disturbed all of it. William reacted at once, but he kept his anger under control. Rather than confront his brother himself, he sent an aide with a firm message. Harry's seat had been assigned, and it could not be changed. Harry refused to move. He said he would not take part in an arrangement that required Meghan to sit alone after being ignored in front of the family. His words were calm, but there was no uncertainty in them. The instruction had failed. The silence had failed. And now the insult everyone hoped to disguise had become the center of the reception. Kate understood the danger immediately. Her decision to pass Meghan's seat had no longer remained a brief, deniable gesture. Harry had given it weight. Guests began choosing sides without speaking. Some saw his defiance as selfish and reckless, another example of private anger disrupting a royal occasion. Others quietly admired him for refusing to let Meghan carry the humiliation alone. Then the bride noticed the disturbance. She asked why Harry had abandoned his place. When she was told Meghan's seat had been changed, her confusion deepened. She had never approved such a decision. She demanded to know who had authorized it. No one answered. The silence exposed the first serious crack in the palace's defense. A plan supposedly created to protect the bride had been carried out without her knowledge. Officials looked toward one another, each waiting for someone else to accept responsibility. The bride then ordered the original seating notes to be brought to her at once. What had begun as a controlled royal reception was now threatening to become an investigation in the middle of the celebration. When the original notes were brought forward, they revealed something no one expected. Meghan's seat had not been changed once, but 3 separate times. The first seating plan placed Meghan beside Harry. The second moved her farther from the senior royals. The third isolated her almost completely. But the real shock was not the changes themselves, it was the handwritten name beside the final instruction approving them. The documents exposed a pattern that no one could dismiss as a simple mistake. The earliest version treated Harry and Meghan as a married couple. Their names appeared together, their place within the family was clear, and nothing suggested that their presence had become a problem. Then, as the wedding drew closer, the arrangement began to change. The second plan separated them during the most important moments of the reception. Harry remained close enough to William to preserve the image of 2 brothers standing together, while Meghan was moved toward the edge of the family group. It was not yet complete isolation, but the message was taking shape. The palace wanted Harry visible. It wanted Meghan controlled. The final version removed all doubt. Harry was placed near William and the senior royals, exactly where the cameras and speeches would focus. Meghan was left in a position where she could be passed without stopping. overlooked without explanation, and excluded without anyone having to admit that exclusion was the goal. The handwritten notes made the intention even darker. Beside one change appeared the phrase, "Avoid focal conflict." Another instructed staff to protect principal family grouping. The most chilling note was shorter, no pause at M. It did not order anyone to insult Meghan, it did not need to. The meaning was clear. Then, everyone saw the initials beside the final approval. They appeared to be Kate's. For a moment, the entire chain of decisions seemed to lead directly back to her. Harry looked at Kate as though the evidence had confirmed everything he feared. But she denied writing them. She insisted that palace staff often marked approvals on behalf of senior royals after verbal discussions. The initials, she said, did not prove she had seen the final plan or understood how far the changes had gone. That denial opened a more troubling possibility. Kate may have been used as a shield. Officials knew Harry would confront her first. If the plan failed, blame could settle on a personal dispute between two women instead of reaching the wider system that had designed the arrangement. Under pressure, one aide finally admitted that the instructions had grown out of a conversation involving William. He had never directly said Meghan should be isolated. He had spoken about preventing distraction, protecting the family grouping, and keeping the brothers close. Staff had turned those concerns into action. Harry's anger shifted toward William. He accused his brother of allowing private tension to become public punishment while keeping his own hands clean. William did not deny knowing that Meghan's seat would be changed. But then he made a claim that stunned Harry more than the notes themselves. He said he believed Harry had already agreed to it. That claim forced Harry to confront the most dangerous possibility of all. Someone inside the palace had been speaking in his name. The final seating plan had been approved with one crucial assurance: Harry had supposedly accepted it. He had not. Someone had used his name to separate him from Meghan, protect the palace from blame, and ensure that any protest would make him appear unstable. Harry demanded to know when he had agreed, who had spoken to him, and why no written approval existed. The answers came slowly. A senior aide had told William's team that Harry understood the arrangement and had accepted the need to sit apart from Meghan during key moments. That assurance had passed through several offices until it became treated as fact. Yet no one could produce a message, an email, or a direct conversation proving Harry had ever given permission. The palace had relied on spoken instructions. That was not an accident. Verbal messages could be denied, changed, or blamed on misunderstanding. They allowed powerful people to influence a decision without leaving their names behind. By the time the final plan reached the reception, Harry's supposed approval had become the shield protecting everyone involved. Then the truth became darker. The same aide who claimed Harry had agreed was also the person who warned him before the ceremony to remain calm. He had helped create the arrangement, then prepared Harry for the humiliation without revealing his own role. If Harry stayed silent, the plan would succeed. If he reacted, he could be painted as emotional, reckless, and impossible to manage. Kate began to understand that she too may have been guided by false information. She had believed Harry and Meghan knew about the seating change. That belief had made distance feel like procedure rather than punishment. But Meghan did not allow the palace to hide behind confusion. She asked Kate one simple question. Why had no one spoken to her directly before deciding what she could endure? Kate had no easy answer. She admitted that she had chosen caution because she feared another family crisis. She believed that warmth might create expectations, that a private gesture could become a public promise, and that any mistake would place her between William and Harry. But in protecting the institution from discomfort, she had allowed Meghan to carry the pain alone. Harry's anger was no longer aimed at one person. The true betrayal was the system itself. A system where decisions could be made in whispers, responsibility could be divided, and cruelty could be hidden beneath words like order, duty, and protection. The bride ordered Meghan's original place restored. The change did not repair the family, but it broke the plan. Harry remained beside Meghan, refusing to return to the seat chosen for him. William stayed silent. Kate understood that one skipped greeting had become something much larger. The wedding continued, the music returned, and the photographs preserved the illusion of celebration, but after that night, no royal seating plan would ever look innocent to Harry again. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more hidden royal stories, palace secrets, and dramatic moments the monarchy never wanted revealed.